that little piece of the hero's journey, which is called the journey through the desert before you get to the promised land, that needs to be talked about. Total responsibility for your life. And many men find that burden a little bit too heavy and a little too bleak to carry, and they head back home. Men aren't ready to go back and go, oh, so I have to now shoulder what I eat, what I watch, how I speak, what I do when I wake up. Everything is now on you because you cannot shove it off to your old stories, your dad, the government, your fucking coping mechanism. No, it's you, bro. None of you think you can get through this. I'm going to tell you two things. Number one, more than 1 million men have got through this, and they have persevered, and they're successful, and you can too. You're no different than the other men who are winning life. Everything you want has a price tag. Are you willing to pay it? What do you want? What's it cost? Pay it. If you are not for yourself, then who will be?
Grand Rising Soul family. Adam Jackson here with another episode of the Sacred Sons podcast. Sacred Sons Convergence 8, The Return, is coming to Scotland. That's right, Edinburgh, Scotland, September 14th through 17th, and Los Angeles, California, October 5th through 8th. And today's guest, Mr. Philip Folsom, will be joining us at Convergence 8, The Return in Los Angeles. He's going to be bringing an incredible pillar talk. Philip, you joined us at Convergence 2. Welcome back to The Return.
Yeah, man. If there's anything about me, I'm relentless.
Yes, you are.
As long as I don't quit, I can't lose. You know, I mean, that's just the reality that I think a lot of men don't understand is that if they're not, successful, then they're a loser. They've identified with, oh, I guess I got beat. Like, no, you didn't. That's just, you might have lost a battle, but as long as you don't surrender, the war goes forever. And that's part of the, I just turned 56.
He's 56. He's got a dog in him. He's got a wolf in him.
Dude, I don't quit, man. And so, I get the shit kicked out of me, but I just keep showing up. And eventually it's like, what I discover is that the opposition, the challenges, the resistance, as long as they can't outlast me, then I'm going to win.
There it is. And so, brothers, if you want to join us, join Sacred Sons, Philip Folsom, Kale Ka'alekahi, Kevin Walton, Yona Frenchhawk, all of these incredible brothers bringing their wisdom, bringing their life experience to Convergence. I wanted to say it like this: Convergence 8, this is not a retreat, this is a return. This is not just a men's weekend, this is a remembrance. Convergence 8, join us in either Scotland or Los Angeles, California. Go to sacredsons.com, get your tickets today, they're going fast. We'll see you there, brothers. And with that, our guest today, he's an anthropologist. He's a culture development expert. He's the CEO of Wolf Tribe and co-founder of VALOR. You know him from K4 Men's Work, and he is bringing the ancient wisdom of tribe, wolves, and kinship back to the world. Please welcome Philip Folsom.
Yeah. Hey, I don't like to think of these as being retreats.
That's right.
They're advances. Why don't we call them advances?
There it is.
Convergence 8, the advance. I don't want to ever go on a retreat, bro.
That's right. We're not on the retreat.
That's what fucked us up in the first men's movement. Is it was men retreating from the world. Before this went live, you were talking about, firefighters and the concrete dude who's just sort of, subtly integrating this mature, healthy masculinity back into that sick society that we're all born into. And you were mentioning just a little thing like a Monday check-in. How you doing? And ask it for real.
Yes.
Right? Not just, hey, how you doing, Adam? And I don't expect any return. It's like, no, how you doing?
Absolutely. This work, it's not to be kept in the deserts, on the ropes courses, or in those advances, right? In those weekends. This work permeates into the culture and into our lives, no matter where we are. And that's what I was saying. And like just bringing these relational tools to the workplaces, to our families. This is embodied masculinity.
I'll give credit where I got this from, but I went and watched one of Jordan Peterson's lectures recently, and he pivoted into Exodus as a mythological or applied psychological sort of journey, and he did it live in front of 10,000 people, and to witness his exploration and unpacking of that story. But the root of it is what you and I both do is that we take men into a hero's journey where they get to look at some of the sources of their dysfunction, right? And the symptoms of their dysfunction, which is the old stories, the old operating system, and then reintroduce them to a new upgraded operating system, which gives them the manual controls of their life. Okay. Absolutely. So that's awesome. That's what we're doing. Cool. That is the freedom from tyranny and the emancipation from slavery in Exodus. What we don't talk about, and what Jordan Peterson fucking punched me in the nuts with, is he said, yeah, you don't get to the promised land after that. There's a little phase in between. It's called the desert. It's called 40 fucking years of walking without a map, without any appreciation, without any guarantees, and of suffering, carrying that new baggage of total responsibility for your life. And many men find that burden a little bit too heavy and a little too bleak to carry, and they head back home. They do retreat. Yeah. And so that little piece of the hero's journey, which is, called the journey through the desert before you get to the promised land, that needs to be talked about, because men aren't ready to go back and go, oh, so I have to now shoulder what I eat, what I watch, how I speak, what I do when I wake up. Everything is now on you, because you cannot shove it off to your old stories, your dad, the government, your fucking coping mechanisms. No, it's you, bro.
It's on you. Ownership. Own your shit. I'm all about it. But this is why we call it the return. You're already dropping the hero's journey. The return is a part of the hero's journey. We return with the gold. We return with the elixir, and that's what we're calling our brothers in. Like, return to yourselves, return to the land, return to brotherhood. And then from that place, bring it back into your life. And I want to say, Jordan Peterson said it to you now. It was written, and also Bob Marley said it. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. No one but ourselves can free our minds. That's exactly the messaging.
Yeah. I recently, actually, it was probably after that talk, is I went and bought the Quran, the Torah, a new, the Bible. I'm looking at this whole stack, the Bhagavad Gita, and I have a rough mythological familiarity with all those texts, and I know some of the big stories, but I've never read the Quran. I've never read, those books are shocking roadmaps for the masculine journey. And Nietzsche said, God is dead. Like, we've killed God, science. Yeah. And in order to be able to replace God, we will have to be God, which is his birth of the Superman concept, is that in order to replace God that we have killed, we're going to have to now take full ownership of the creation of our universe in totality. And what Nietzsche was referring to is that that's impossible. Yeah. You're going to have to look back and find some sort of a framework of battle-tested beliefs. And they're there. If you're willing to take an educated, I guess, I don't know what to call it, modern, but certainly a contemporary interpretation of that ancient wisdom, because it's there.
It's absolutely there. And for me, it's like, how many more interpretations do we need? How many times we got to get hit over the head with it? Do unto others, give us the golden rule. Give us the platinum rule. Do unto others because they are you. We are, we haven't even, the 10 Commandments are seen as some ancient thing written in stone, yet here we are in 2023 and we still can't adhere to the first 3 rules. Thou shalt not kill. We still can't get it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And that back to Exodus, that was the moment when, they hit this crisis of faith where it's like, I don't want to do this journey anymore. It's too heavy. So I'm going to stay here, and this is where it ends. I'm going to worship the false idols.
Right.
I'm going to, and really that's the golden parachute in today's corporate world is I don't want to leave my health insurance and follow what I really want to do because I've got the golden handcuffs on me. Those are the men who gave up in the desert, right? And Moses, he had his crisis of faith also. That's when he went up the mountain and was like, all right, man, I can't do this alone. And that's when he comes down with those 10 commandments. So you don't have to use those 10 commandments, but there's a lot of very, very crystallized wisdom of our ancestors. Pick one, because they're all the same. It's basically the same shit. But, pick the one that's your vibe. And that way you don't have to be the Superman. None of us are a Superman. We can't create our universe without standing on the shoulders of all those giants who, are the source of our efficacy.
This work, it's not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about showing up in your life and actually taking ownership for those things that you are responsible for. Taking actual responsibility, yeah?
Yeah. Responsibility, the ability to respond. That's heavy.
Yeah.
To be able to respond intentionally and fully to everything in your life. I think it's an almost unmanageable burden is to be fully conscious all the time. Mm. I mean, there's a couple of us who did it, right? And a couple of them came back in order to teach us.
Yeah.
But really, how many men have actually managed full consciousness, full responsibility for their life? That's a heavy lift. I don't think it's fair or realistic to put the totality of that without some sort of a infrastructure in place. And that's why I think we're all searching for that. And I'm noticing certain repeated themes, obviously anthropologically or mythologically, you can see them echo across time and cultures. But even in our contemporary work, we're starting to see core things that are repeated across every men's group. There is a crystallization, and it is evolutionary. Mm-hmm. There is an evolutionary process happening as this is all coming together into some next version or next level of ourselves.
Yeah, this next stage of consciousness that we're in. And, I just want to bring it back to this responsibility part. You posted something really interesting recently on your Instagram, which is evolution is not survival of the fittest, but it's survival of the most adaptable. And
Darwin.
I love this reframe, though. That it's not about necessarily being the fittest, being the one who can take it all on your own, carry everything on your own shoulders. We know that in fact is like the shadow of the masculine. But it's like, who's the most adaptable?
I'll do this at Convergence. Probably a bunch of guys will have watched this. But I'll say, hey, men, evolution is survival of, and all of them are going to say the fittest. And I'll be like, yeah, who told you that? Because it's not true. It wasn't Darwin. Darwin said evolution is survival of the most adaptable. But it's been twisted in that men have to be the fittest in order to survive. That's that Superman burden. You can't be jacked and rich and conscious and have a big dick and like fucking all these things that are expected to be the Superman and be successful in today's society. Like, you need to be adaptable. You need to be growing. You need to be evolving. You need to, take your version of your heroic journey, and that will allow you to survive and to thrive. But the fittest piece, that needs to be quickly dismantled. That's toxic.
Yeah. Well, and even in the animal kingdom, and maybe we can speak a little bit how the wolves do it, but like even the fittest, the alpha wolf, which is also a myth, right? They are not the alpha without the pack. There is no I without the we. Last time we talked about Ubuntu. I am because we are, And so even in the idea that, hey, I'm going to be the alpha, or I'm going to be, the leader, this is my kingdom. I'm stepping into kingship. The kingdom is nothing without the people. The king is nothing without the kingdom. And we have to humble ourselves, no matter what role we are in the pack, in the kingdom, in the tribe. No matter what our role is, it's important to approach the role with the responsibility, the ability to respond, and with the humility and knowing that every single one of our roles is important. Every single one of our roles is valued.
This is my visual aid.
Bring it. Yes, I love to bring skulls.
I got a visual aid. The alpha is basically the mating pair, right? That's all the alpha pair is. There's an alpha female and there's an alpha male, and then the rest of the pack is an extended family. It's a clan kinship system. A big pack might get to 20. The biggest pack ever recorded was in Yellowstone. I think they got up to maybe low 40s. That was like a super pack because there was a huge amount of elk in a period of time. Anyway, but they're not the biggest and they're not the strongest. That role is given to what's referred to as the beta or the warrior class wolves. And they're the ones that defend territory. They're the ones that go in first on the hunting. And so they're not leading. They're leading when it's their duty or their responsibility to lead at, which is the hunt or defense. And then when it's time for teaching the young wolves, that's a very different set of wolves that slide into leadership, and they will take like the bottom end of an elk leg, and they'll hunt the elk with the young wolves. And when that is happening, that is the most important thing that the pack is doing, is teaching the young to pack so that there is a future for the pack. But that's the moment. And again, it's not the warriors. It's not the alphas. That's those other wolves that are just really gifted at that calling. And then when it's time to, protect and raise the little pups, that's when those nanny wolves, that's their job. They will stay and protect the wolves from, grizzlies. So that's their most important job that they're doing. They may not be pulling down the bison. They're staying home protecting the next generation. So, we all have some unique calling that is our destiny to fulfill in the world, and finding what that thing is and then getting an active pursuit of that is really the hero's journey. That's the path towards freedom and meaning, which is that we're all looking for.
Yeah. I love that, man. I love how you have this intimate knowledge, and there's something about us as humans where we have become so egocentric that even in our own thoughts or mythology, like around the pack of wolves, we want there to be this tip of the spear alpha, and yet we're losing the sense of the full ecology of the pack. So I love how you're bringing that in. And so how do you apply this to men, right? We're in nuclear model families, many of us. A lot of us are lone wolfing it out there, being single into our 50s. Who knows what's going on out there, really? How do we apply this? Like, what is the human model as an anthropologist, as someone who's developing culture? What do you see working? What do you see as the human model?
Yeah. I think we talked about this, but there's, two big versions or operating systems. There's honor-based, which is our original OS, which is kind of what you and I are both in pursuit of or modeling in the world, which is actively creating an interdependent relationship or community. And that's a kinship system. And it means that we are all following a shared vision for the future, which is the return of healthy masculinity. We all have a set of shared values, which drives behavior and decisions towards that shared vision. And then we have some sort of transparency of how we're doing it, like what I'm working on. You were gracious enough to be transparent and invite me into your kingdom to speak. That's a form of transparency that drives collaboration, which in turn drives reciprocity, in that you have given me this honor. And if I am part of an honor-based culture, then I am duty bound to return that honor to you. And that's the engine of kinship. The moment we can implement those three things, shared vision, shared values, and then shared mission, you are no longer the other. You are no longer the founder of, Sacred Sons. You are now an extension of myself. You are an ally on this journey in men's work. We now are looking at each other as an extension of ourselves. That's kinship. And that's on honor-based culture. So the other operating system is pride-based, which means it's me and my walled off kingdom, and everyone else is the other. And that's tribalism. It's exclusive virtue. It's my men's group has the unique path towards success, and all others are threats to that path. That's the pride-based culture. It's tribalism, and it is proving not to work. If you look at all of the evidence, irrefutable evidence of the collapse of our mental health, our resiliency, our quality of life, it's not working. The anxiety rates, depression rates, addiction rates, suicide rates, the loneliness rates, it's not working. And the longest running study that humans have ever done with other humans came out of Harvard, and I think it's almost 100 years old, that multi-generational, where they tracked individuals and families over multi-generations, and there's one irrefutable variable that is underneath long-term success, happiness, and health. And it has nothing to do with lifestyle, has nothing to do with money. It has to do with relationships. Individuals who have better relationships live longer and are happier, period. And that's an honor-based culture. That's kinship. So the return of kinship is basically reclaiming our birthright, but it does need to be a contemporary version of kinship with all of the tremendous information that we have now available to us.
Yeah. Man, I really love the breakdown of these two models, and I'm there with you. Here's where some guys get stuck, though, or stumble, I would say, because they go, oh, great. So all I have to do is improve my relationships. Let me go please everybody. Let me go be the nice guy. Let me go make everybody else happy. But they forget the first and primary relationship is the relationship to self, and that is one that you cannot fake. This is why we start with the inner work, because the relationship to self has to be intact in order for our honorable relationships to be real, to be in honesty, and to be like to be in full reciprocity. You understand what I'm saying? Like that's a piece where like you can't skip steps.
Well, and you touched on this when you said the first line of Ubuntu, which is I am because we are.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's honor-based culture, the return of kinship. It's like, okay, great. So I am because we are. I just have to be embedded in a good relationship. The second half is equally important. Well, we are because I am.
Yes.
So unless you are powerful, healthy, vital, alive, emotionally solvent, unless you are a strong wolf, then you're not contributing anything to the pack and society. You are not holding it up, and you're not pushing it forward. So that nice guy story of I'm going to sacrifice all of me to serve you, that is just as toxic as the inverse. Yeah. Like we do need to pursue self-interest, which is not selfish. Selfishness is very different than self-interest. I want to be around hungry, vital, ambitious wolves because I know that they're going to be partners that benefit me. I know that them out there hustling only improves me. I mean, I want that. I'm not threatened by that. I want fucking Sacred Sons to blow the fuck up. I win when you win. And every other men's group that's out there doing the work, because I win, because you are an extension of me.
Let me just say here, the reason that I called you in here and the reason I'm inviting you to Convergence 8 is because I do want to honor you, because you are someone who has been in this work. You're someone who has the knowledge, wisdom, understanding, the application of that knowledge. You know, I really see that in you. And so what I want to know from here is, how does one become Philip Folsom? What were the pieces? Let's go in, brother. Like I've never got a chance to really ask you, but what were some of those key pieces in your life where shifts needed to happen? You know, where you had to kind of like face your own shadow, step up into your own being.
Oh yeah, and this is ongoing.
Of course, of course.
It's always interesting to, like if people were to say what their perception of you is, it would not match your inner residual story.
But this is why it's empowering in men's work, because we get to take those masks off, right? We get to lay down the armor just for that time that we have together, and we get to be seen. We get to become vulnerable, which is something that many of us don't have the access to. And then we get our cup filled, like we break it down to build it back up 10 times as strong. You're putting on. I see you parading around in the middle of the group doing you are leading. Yeah.
You're playing bigger than you do in your day-to-day life when you are at the convergences. You are a different man.
100%.
And I'm not going to surrender.
You have to be.
Right. So it's not like, no, you're not just taking off the fucking masks. You're putting on the fucking armor. You're putting on the hide of the bear and becoming the bear.
And Philip, that's because I have what we call range. Because what I'm also doing, when I'm not screaming, I am here, you are here, we are here to 300 men, I'm also in a group of 20 leading a very deep process. And I'm going to go in there with you. And I'm crying with you because of the abuse, because of the torment, because of the trauma that you suffered. And so I'm showing these men a full range of what it is to be a man, because it's not always about being loud and out front, is it?
No.
We get the opportunity also to lead from the back. We get the opportunity to hold, to witness, to be in it with our brothers. And that range is something that we get to exercise in the work.
And that's the versatility of the full scope of a human expression, because that dynamic, the wolf dynamic of the 4 different roles, those are the masculine archetype: king, warrior, magician, lover. Basically, that's a wolf operating system that has been installed in humanity 35,000 years ago, and it is interpersonal within the tribe. Like, okay, we have our shaman, we have our chief. That's our war leader right there. When shit goes down, we want him out front. Those same dynamics. Hey man, different cultures had different norms. All right. Like there's different.
Well, that's a cool conversation. We can get into it, but I follow where you're going. It's like those archetypes, they're not just theoretical. It's like when shit goes down, when food is scarce, when resources are scarce, when the other tribe is coming, those archetypes have meaning, they have power, and you better be ready to fucking adapt. That's what I hear in what you're saying.
Well, the versatility piece is that we have the exact same players and the exact same dynamics happening on an internal level. When is it time for me to trigger my warrior to defend a boundary? When is it time for me to surrender to my lover when it's time to have that intimate conversation? When is it time for me to put on my, bear skin and fucking, raise the energy of 250 men? Like that versatility that's the survival of the most adaptable. Versatility is applied adaptability. They sit right next to each other on the bookshelf.
Right.
And the next book next to adaptability is innovation. Right. And that's kind of a function of the king archetype, the ability to do that. So that versatility to be that man in full, we have to have access to all four of those and be able to do the soft, sensitive, but also the war leader,
Okay, but you're still not getting out of it. What was a time in your life when you had to surrender to life itself? Listen, I'm not asking for rock bottom here, but what makes you who you are?
Yeah. All right. So all of, my kind of backstory is like many men, I was raised by a single mom. And that dynamic is our moms do have two functions. They're there to domesticate us. Otherwise, we just throw shit at each other and be animals. You and I we wouldn't be having this conversation all nice and smart. And number two, you got boys, that without
I got actual shit throwers.
Yeah, without your fucking lady going, no, honey, we don't throw shit. No, then
I might have eaten them. If she wasn't here, I might have just eaten them myself.
Exactly. You little shit, get over here. But so. Number one, they domesticate us, thank God. And number two, they keep us safe, because otherwise your boys would be falling out of trees.
Or they keep us nourished. Like safety is one way to say it, but I would use the word nourished. Mothers keep their children nourished, and that's literal from the jump, and it's energetic as well.
Yeah, and really, that's the only moment when we are being fed without the death of other things. I don't care how vegan you are.
Wow.
That food you're eating was a living thing. And you have killed a vast array of things in the process of whatever it is you're eating. Every herbivore kills more things than the most apex carnivore could hope to do.
Wow.
So anytime we are living, other things are dying. That is a natural law, except that moment when the mother's feeding you. It's the only time that we are living in a time of absolution, is that moment.
And is that not the most beautiful portrait of reciprocity, of giving and receiving, of infinite perpetual giving and receiving between a mother and child? That's so beautiful. I'm going to use that. Bring that through at Convergence. That's a powerful reframe around breastfeeding. I love that. So
those are the two functions.
So you're raised by a single mom.
Correct. I'm getting back. I know. Keep coming back to that. But at some point, we have to transition into our Father's house, where you do not have to be nice anymore. In fact, you're encouraged not to be, because you mean that kid just punched you in the face? Well, did you punch him back? Right? Did you compete? Did you win? How's your, that's the Father's house move.
Yeah.
And no, don't be safe. Let's take some risks. I want to see you fail, boy. And so I never had that transition. I never got initiated into my Father's house. So, my core wounds are that I quit, I lied, I cheated, I was a failure, I ran. I did that whole thing right up until the Army, when I had, Drill Sergeant Thomas. And, he was this fucking jacked, handsome Black man who could sing the most beautiful cadence. And he was this first masculine role model that that carried all of those core masculine aspirational qualities that I never saw was available. And at one point we were fucking up because we couldn't get our shit together. Because we're 18-year-old kids, you're just retarded. And so he's smoking us doing grass drills in the middle of the night, hoses. It was horrible. And at one point he goes, none of you think you can get through this. And I'm going to tell you two things. Number one, more than 1 million men have got through this, and they have persevered, and they're successful. And now they're out there being professional soldiers, and you can too. You are no different than them. Number two, and he pointed to this 30-foot light pole, where we were getting smoked in the middle of the night. And he said, if a man climbs to the top of that, jumps off, doesn't get hurt, walks away, I know I can do the same thing. And I had never had a man tell me that. I'd never had a man say, you can win. You're no different than the other men who are winning life.
Right.
And And that was the first time
shift. That was the shift.
That was a big shift for me of going like, what am I just an inherent loser? Am I broken? Or
is it a choice? He just brought into your awareness that winning and losing is a choice. It is something that you choose, right?
Yeah, and everything you want has a price tag. Are you willing to pay it?
Right.
That's a very simple sequence of a successful life for all the men watching. What do you want? What's it cost? Pay it. It's just, you want to get in shape? So what's your vision? What's it going to take? And you have to make those sacrifices. You want to make money. You want to have a hot sex life. You want to, whatever it is you want to do, there's a price that is involved. Pay it. And so that was kind of the beginning of this journey. I was also dealing with alcoholism, a huge amount of, trauma processing stuff coming through. And my other big awareness, and I share this with all the men watching as well, is that you will always do more for others than you will do for yourself. And I'm going to propose that this is a inalienable human right, is that it's a law that men will always do more honorably for others than you will do for yourself.
It's an instinctual habit, isn't it?
Any form of heroism in the history of humanity has been done in the service of someone else. You don't do heroic shit for yourself. You do heroic shit because your battle buddies, you'll play wounded, right? Injured because the brother's next to you. You wake up, you won't be late for convergence, whereas you might sleep in a little bit for yourself.
Right.
So we will always raise our game in the service of others. It's an innate
2 days early for convergence.
Because you refuse to be shamed, embarrassed, inadequate, or dishonorable.
Because I refuse to let it fail. That's what I would actually say. Yeah. I refuse to allow this to fail. And I'm willing to pay whatever price that is, right? And specifically, I like to drop this on the men. Like if I'm showing up in that space, and this is one that my brother Bearheart brings through all the time. It's like, if I'm leaving my family, then I'm letting you know that you're just as important to me as my family. If I'm giving you my time and this energy and this presence, in this time that you're with me, you are just as important as my family is. And I'm expecting the same from you. If you're showing up, you could be anywhere doing anything, but you chose to be here. So let's bring full presence to what the mission is. I love that. I love that what you said. Same shared values, shared vision, shared mission. Back to the story.
Okay. So my realization that I will only be the heroic man that I aspire to be in the context of me being required to be that way basically shaped my entire career. Because me delivering leadership programming makes me be a leader.
Yeah.
Like when I'm in front of corporate executives, they're hiring me because I'm competent and I'm knowledgeable and I'm confident. Like I am that man because I'm required to be that man. I'm not always that man. I have not fully integrated in my regular life. I'm better for you today than I am for myself. Because when we turn this podcast off and I go back to writing this fucking book that I'm going to war with, I'll probably let me check maybe somebody messaged me. Yeah. Jerk off. Right? And I won't be this paragon of masculine leadership that, I am when I am required to be that. So one of my secrets is I just build infrastructure around me that requires me to be extraordinary all the time. Be a parent, start a company, join a men's group, put yourself in the hot seat where you cannot run and you cannot escape as often as possible, and you'll be better.
And the reason why it's difficult is because it's uncomfortable. For a lot of the brothers listening, they might hear this and be like, no, I'm good on my couch with my Cheetos. And like, listen, I was good on the couch last night with my ice cream too. It comes in waves, right?
Yeah.
And it's important that we put ourselves in not only uncomfortable situations, but situations that are calling us forward, that are calling us upward.
Yeah. I'm not seeing you laying on a couch eating ice cream at Convergence. You're not that man. Because you're not allowed to be that man. Mm-hmm. So if I want to be that man, then and I fully realize the external nature and the external manipulation of my environment to intentionally shape it so that I get a different behavioral outcome. And obviously a lot of it does permeate who I really am. I do look around and go, well, I actually am quite successful. And if I hear it enough, eventually it starts eroding the old inadequacy story that is my core identity. Because, eventually after 10, 15, 20, 30 years of people saying, you're an admirable man. I'm like, maybe I am. Like, yeah, maybe you are.
I mean, I just have a sense that's not why you do it. Why do you do it? Because the why of why you're doing it is actually closer to the essence of who you are. So what if I asked you that way? Why do you do this, Philip? Why?
Yeah. And this is more of a recent evolution of my career or my life, is that I actually do have a unique gift to bring the world that would not exist without me. And I would not have said that. I always knew that I had some sort of purpose or destiny, and I think all young men do. And at some point, we lose the golden ball, right? It goes inside of Iron John's cage, and a lot of times it gets sunk in the dark waters, and we spend the rest of our life just reminiscing about it. So I believe it is there in all men, is that, potential for golden hair is there in all men. But for whatever reason, I managed to keep it alive through a lot of really dark roads, dealing with alcohol and, a lot of struggles that, that really permeated a lot of my life. So I still kept that sense of, but I have something important to do. I have something important to do. And now I know it. So like now I'm in full effect because I'm in the arena, and the fear that I'll never get to it has been replaced by a more honest fear of, are you enough to now deliver it?
Yeah.
Can you sustain this pace? And unfortunately, I think most men don't really get to that arrival of purpose until, 40, 50, because my definition of what purpose is that it is sourced from wounding. And that's the genesis of, every hero, is that they have been wounded, and then they have hit the fork in the road where they're either going to punish the world for wounding them and become the villain, or they're going to stop the world from hurting people in the way they were hurt, and they become the hero. That's the origin story.
There's a third. You're either the hero, you're the villain, or you're the victim. There's a third option that some people take, and that's to just be the victim.
So whatever the nascent or fledgling version of your purpose is connected and immediately sourced from your pain, the thing that broke your heart, your trauma. And the word passion actually means to suffer. Passion means to suffer. It's the thing you will willingly suffer for. That's called passion. It means that it sucks going to the gym. It sucks writing. It sucks not eating your ice cream. That sucks. But, and the ultimate passion is the passion of the Christ. He willingly walked up that hill to be crucified. But that passion, where it serves other people, where your passion ends up serving other people, is your purpose. And most men aren't able to gather the personal power or the resources or the skill set that the thing that wounded them actually now is in a vehicle that serves the world. And you see a lot of men kind of spiritually bypassing of like, these are the things that hurt me. Now I'm going to be a breathwork coach. Right. It's like, no, you need more than that. You know, you need to actually get some measure of efficacy, of integrated work, of a mastery of your craft, and then you're legitimately serving other people, and that's purpose.
Yeah, transmuting pain into purpose is not an overnight arc. It's that is the journey of life. Absolutely.
Years in the desert. The desert exists to test the faithful. It's an Arabic parable.
I love that.
The desert exists to test the faithful. And you will hear that line, I'm sure, when the second installation of the Dune movie comes out. Because Herbert drew a lot from a lot of Arabic, desert mythology. Mm-hmm. And that was in the book, and it will probably be there in that movie as well.
I'm actually excited for the new Dune. I really like the first one. I like the book too. I read the book.
One of my favorite books. Yeah. One of my favorite books. Fear is the mind killer.
Fear is the mind killer.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said the word pace. I tend to think of it more as capacity. And so as we expand into who we are becoming, it's really about the capacity, not to take on more suffering, but the capacity to live within that passion and purpose, right? The capacity to live it fully, no matter what we're doing in the minutia. Like, it's all for one. It's all for that I am.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to ask you, I'm going to go back into your why. Yep. Because honestly, what I'm hearing is that you're someone who cares about people. You're someone who's gone through it yourself, and that you care enough. You actually give a shit enough to look back and say, "Hey, I got a way. Take my hand.
Yeah.
Come to my talk, whatever it is."
Yeah, that's where I am now. Currently, is that I have not created, but I have certainly been introduced to the maps that allow men to navigate their life successfully. And again, everybody knows the hero's journey, the masculine archetypes, how tribe, or culture creation works, but they're vague things. And if you don't have a map, then it's very hard to navigate complex and vast topics. So those maps have been given to humanity through, the gift of mythology and our ancestors. They've already done the heavy lift for us. Yeah. And it's a crystallized multi-generational lift. Like, they're here. And so basically a modernizing of these maps is what I'm bringing to the world.
Yeah.
And I was born with and built a unique passion that has allowed me to do this for a long time. And so I have been able to crystallize that in a way that makes sense for people.
You have a working title for the book?
I have 3 books, and they're the Master Maps. Master Maps. Yeah. And those 3. And the one of the reasons why, it landed to me that, like, oh, this is truth, is that, the hero's journey is a circle. The masculine archetypes are a square. It's a quadrant system. And the tribe triangle, which is how you take lone wolves and put them into a pack so that your community and culture works, is a triangle. And when you put a square and a circle and a triangle together, you have the ancient and universal symbol of alchemy.
Yeah.
So, I didn't invent that. It was just, I'm a vehicle for something that is larger than myself. And obviously I'm participating in that journey, but I do have a purpose. And it came from passion. And I know that it serves people, and that's what I'm here to do. And I've got a certain amount of time to do it.
Yeah.
So,
have you done your research into Hermeticism and their Hermetic principles?
Yeah. Yeah. We actually have a really shout out to Ollie. He's one of our K4 guys from Romania. He lives in Transylvania, Romania.
Cool.
And he does a Hermetica chapter every week for us in nice. K4. Fuck. Yeah. Deep
That's
dive.
Cool. Yeah, man. I think what you said is very interesting. It's like a part of the mission is to bring forward maybe the languaging or these ideas which are time tested, bring them through for a new generation of ears for them to land on, and maybe with new technology. You're bringing through it in a trilogy series of books, the Master Maps. And yeah, I mean, I wonder if that's just it. It's like the continuation of the wave, continuing to bring the information further forward.
And evolving it.
Right.
Campbell was the one that first crystallized that idea, because he did this vast swath of comparative mythology and realized right, there's a one story. So he's the one that put boots on the ground and burned the boats. That was it. Yeah. But there's now a contemporary version of that, which is the same framework, but it's now viewed through certain lenses that were unavailable to him. And there'll be another generation after me who is even deepening that journey, and they're going to roll in, they're finding libraries all the time behind hidden walls where there's Sanskrit scrolls of other stuff. I'm like, yeah, fold that in too.
Yeah. I'm going to go back in here. I've been asking this question lately on the podcast. It's just been coming through, so it's nothing direct towards you, but I think it's cool. Is your mom living? She's still with us?
Yep.
What's your mom think about what you're doing? What's your mom think about K4? What you think about the wolves? All of these gifts that you're bringing to your communities, to your world, to your kingdom, to your family. What's your mom's take on the man you've become?
Well, hey, this is not like the bummer fest for you, but my mom's got deep Alzheimer's, so she's out of the game. My dad is in the game, and my dad is enjoying watching my journey, which is really cool. So shout out to Dr. Mike Folsom, who's probably the smartest man that I know. Yeah, I'll put that right. I mean, he put that right up there. He's probably the smartest man that I know about everything. So he is you'll see Mike Folsom on my page, liking my stuff. So he'll watch this. He'll know. He'll be like, that's my boy. So
yeah. And my granny went through it with Alzheimer's. My dad was largely there taking care of her in those last years. That's heavy lifting right there too. And it's time. That's also time for us, to show up as good children and supporting that transition as well.
Yeah. Take care of your brain, gentlemen. Sleep protocol. You need to sleep. You need to eat appropriate amount of fats. If you struggle with any of these things, depression or other don't drink. There's a bunch of things that, take care of that, because this is a very high performance and unfinished piece of hardware. The human brain is in a state of, in evolution, it's called punctuated evolution, where you see species run along with no evolution, flatline for, a million years, like horse. And then all of a sudden you see 10 brand new horses appear in the fossil record, and they kind of branch out, and most of them die off. But then there's one version that happened to be a little bit better adaptable for the new savanna or whatever. And that becomes the new horse. So those little moments of branching of evolution, it's called punctuated evolution. Humanity is in that phase. Wow. We are in a phase where within 50,000 years ago, which is a blink of time evolutionarily, there was 10 other species of hominid living on the planet with us, and we happened to be the one that survived. We're the one that was more aligned to this current state than the others, and they went extinct. They were not adaptable. The Neanderthals, like if you were playing a video game and you could scroll through your character classes, Homo sapien, Neanderthal, you would take Neanderthal. 10 out of 10. Fucking big, 400-pound, bigger brains, better eyes, better adapted for cold climate. Like you would take that character class. Right. But that wasn't the one that won. The one that won was the one that
could work together, perhaps?
Is us. Well, arguably they had just as complex of a culture as we had. They have ritual burials, they have art, they have, all the things that we had.
We know that they interbred as well, right? Because we still have Neanderthal DNA. You see it in the foreheads of the big fighters, that just
red hair.
Yep. Oh, that's also part of Neanderthal DNA.
Any of our brothers got red hair? You've been interbreeding.
That'd be a good one to script a flip on. You've been interbreeding.
You've been interbreeding. Yeah. You got that red hair, bro. I'm 4%. I had my DNA checked at 4%.
That's cool. What do they think tipped the scales from Homo sapiens? You kind of like winning the genetic.
We might need another podcast for this conversation. This one goes deep, but there are a couple things that the big one that is irrefutable is that at 35,000 years ago, when we went into the fully culturally modern phase of humanity, which means we were playing games, like game pieces, bamboo or bone flutes. So music, games, symbolic art in caves, all that happened in one moment in human history. And by moment, I mean probably 1,000 years.
Yeah.
But before that, no evolutionary change at all. Almost nothing. Everything that we ran for 250,000 years, we adopted from Homo erectus or some other, version of us, which is, stone tools, controlled use of fire, simplistic things. But 35,000 years ago is what's called our cognitive revolution. And that was the magical tipping point in human history.
Now, are you someone who buys into the ancient alien theory? I mean, do you think someone tinkered around with us a little bit at 35,000 years ago?
Dude, I hope so, dude. I've been waiting for an alien experience. I've been waiting to see a ghost. I want to see Bigfoot. Dude, I'm like,
dude, I'm the same.
I'm looking like, dude, let me into the ship.
Have you ever had a UFO encounter experience? You seen something you couldn't explain type of thing?
Let me close the loop on 35,000 years ago.
Yes.
The only evidence that we have, right? And if you're a Joe Rogan guy, you have the stoned ape hypothesis that, well, we got into some psilocybin and it rewired our consciousness. Like, okay, hey, man, well, you mean we didn't manage to eat it 200,000 years ago? We're still walking around on the same planet. So, or the alien, like the monolith lands and all of a sudden the Anunnaki and we're, okay, maybe, right? But the facts are at 35,000 years ago, this.
Wolves.
Yeah. We partnered with this species at 35,000 years ago. At 33,000 years ago, you start seeing snub-nosed wolves being buried with children. Oh. So we formed this alliance and it changed everything.
Whoa.
So we did not domesticate the wolf. The wolf domesticated us. The wolf was the apex predator in every ecosystem on planet Earth. So if you could choose Homo sapien, Neanderthal, or wolf in that video game, you would choose wolves because they won. They had vastly more range, more success hunting, and a wolf pack at full power can just say, hey, we're going to take this cave. And we'd be like, Yeah, you are. Bye.
Wow.
But
wow.
at 35,000 years ago, there was
it's not. Wow, this is a power fact. It's not psychedelics. It's not the mushrooms. It's not the stoned apes. It's not even the aliens. It's the wolves. So one thing you taught me last time we talked, it was the whites of their eyes. It was the sclera that gave us that commonality, that let us know that we could be friends, that we could potentially co-inhabit this beautiful land and life. And then 35,000 years later, here we are. That's powerful.
There's a North American myth that says in the creation of animals, the gods really liked what they did with humans. And they were like, you know what? I'm going to remake all the animals into humans because I like this last version. And they tried with the wolf, but the only thing they were able to change were the wolf's eyes. So human eyes and wolf eyes, and their eyes are yellow. They're golden eyes, really, really beautiful, haunting eyes, but very, very similar in terms of, of our eyes. So the question is, to put a bow on that one, is the wolves have an established culture, if you will, for 5 million years.
Wow.
They hit the successful evolutionary platform that allowed them to be, to thrive. And built into that is adaptability. Coming back full circle, evolution of survival, the most adaptable. Let me grab another quick for you, because this, when I talked about the human brain, is an evolutionary experiment, and it is unfinished. So
punctuated evolution.
Yeah. So our attempt at adaptability is our big prefrontal cortex. That's consciousness, right? Executive function. All that stuff happens up here.
Yeah.
In fact, it's the reason why, like your children, like they cannot survive alone, right?
Right.
For years.
My son Holland, sometimes I wonder if I just throw him out there, he'd probably be all right.
No, he would get
He's that wild.
No, but he would be. But for literally years, and the reason why we have such and it's called neoteny. It's a period of protracted adolescence. Is that most animals, when you give birth, with gazelles on the savannah, they're walking in minutes.
Yeah, they pop up and start running.
They're like, oh my fuck, yeah. With us, we're coming out with a completely half-baked cake, and because our women had to split the difference between being able to walk and run long distance with their pelvis and the ability to give birth to this big-ass fucking head. So that's why childbirth is so painful for humans, is that we're bumping right up against the maximum that our females can deliver, which is why we deliver an unfinished being. Because that was the evolutionary experiment that we're running.
That's what was necessary for the adaptability, for the brain and the skull to continue growing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the facts is that this big brain, which we ran for 250,000 years, did not elevate us to success. We were basically low-level scavengers at the very ragged edge of going extinct. And there was periods during particularly the big heavy glaciation where we were down to under 10,000 individuals of our species on planet Earth.
Wow.
And you can tell that by there's evolutionary bottlenecks in the mitochondrial DNA of where we can track, female lineage. So there's periods of time where we get down to, we're almost out, right? And so this didn't save us. The wolves at that time are thriving, because their adaptability built-in system, no prefrontal cortex, it was external. They built a culture of adaptability, which is king, warrior, magician, lover. This is how you build in. You don't have to be everything. You have to play your part in an intact kinship system, and you win. So that's what we got from the wolves at 35,000 years ago.
I think this is a appropriate place to bring it to a close. That was powerful, bro.
All right.
I love how you bring the facts, and I always learn something new from you every time we talk. And man, I'm taking a lot away from this one. Philip, I'm going to be seeing you in October 5th through 8th, Los Angeles, California. You're currently out there in Venice. Is there any piece, any invitation for the brothers and sisters who are listening? You can find Philip at Wolf Tribe Official at K4 Men's Work.
Or just Philip Folsom.
At Philip Folsom. Philip, is there anything that you would like to leave here with the brothers and sisters who are listening?
Yeah. I'll leave you with a little blessing. This is kind of one of my favorite ones, and this comes from Rabbi Hillel from over 2,000 years ago, but it's good marching orders for all you men watching. And that is, if you are not for yourself, then who will be? So take care of yourselves. Like, be a strong wolf. Serve your pack. Right? And you need to develop that. The second part is, if you are not for others, then what are you? What are you even doing here on the planet? Earn your breath. Serve others. And then lastly, if not now, when? It's a little 3-part blessing and marching orders for all you men out there this week.
Boom. You got the marching orders from the man himself, Philip Folsom. A lot of respect for you. I honor you, brother. Thank you for all of the good work that you are doing and for all of this beautiful culture and wisdom that you're bringing back in a new way. Really see you. With that, Philip Folsom, K4, Wolf Tribe, Adam Jackson, Sacred Sons. We're out, family. Peace.